Welcome back to another book review. This time it's a little bit different because I'm not just reviewing one book, but I'm reviewing a series of books, otherwise known as the sketchbooks. So, a little bit of history. I think as early as 1978 or 79, James Hanson at the Museum of the Fur Trade in Chadron, Nebraska, which you've never been and you're a fur trade historian, that's got to be a priority visit for you. I think this time of the year, it's November right now, so they're probably closed, but you can look at their website and check out their hours. You need to visit. It's a really, really great place with just some wonderful artifacts. I'll have a link to the museum down in the description in this review. But in 1979, some of the first sketchbooks published by James Hanson and Kathryn Wilson were put out. And if you go to their website and look at their publications, I think there's a series of 6 sketchbooks. And why are the sketchbooks important? Well, a couple of reasons. One, when I first got interested in this, I know one of the sketchbooks I bought was $5. I think now on their website, if you look it up, some of these sketchbooks are only $8 or $9. So they're still very, very much worth the price. The second reason is the research that Hanson and Wilson put into these sketchbooks. As you'll see in some of the images, most of what you see in the contents of these books are artifacts that are housed at the Museum of the Fur Trade in Chadron, Nebraska. And for those of us who got interested in the hobby and we were I don't know if it's silly enough or we just tempted ourselves enough to say, hey, I think I could make that. The drawings and the details within the drawings were to scale, and that was an important piece of being able to sort of interpret what a lot of those artifacts were. I'm not quite sure on the publication date. I want to say it's probably in the mid-70s. Hanson and Wilson published The Feminine Fur Trade Fashions. This is not a hobby that's just a sort of male-dominated hobby. There's room for everybody. In fact, when you think about where the white man, where the Anglo who was coming out into the West, learned a lot of the tanning methods or was purchasing buckskin materials from the native tribes, it was the women who were doing this most of the time. So there's a lot of interesting information in Wilson's book there on feminine fur trade fashions. You can get a lot of ideas on dresses and a lot of the tools that women used when they were either skinning and dressing those hides. You read a lot of journals where a lot of the trappers who came out west, when their clothes wore out, they preferred to buy what they called Indian dressed hides, which were the brain tanned hides done by the women in the tribes, who were also excellent seamstresses. They would make a lot of clothing for these trappers and hunters that came out west. I've not planned these book reviews in any kind of particular order, but when I first got interested, and some of you might remember this if you're around this area where I am in Kansas, there was a store in Wichita called Four Flags, and Hanson's Volume 1 and Volume 2 sketchbooks were some of the first purchases that I made at Four Flags, because I wanted to learn, well, okay, what do I need? What do I need to carry? How should I look? And what materials is all of that made out of? In Volume 1, you'll find a Taos jacket, which is what I patterned this particular jacket off of. I learned a lot from these, and I even today, I go back to those sketchbooks and look at a lot of those patterns and adapt those to the things that I'm trying to either make or work on. In 1983, Hanson turned his eyes back east, interestingly enough, and produced the Long Hunter's sketchbook. This was a little bit before the time of the movie The Last of the Mohicans with Daniel Day-Lewis that became pretty popular with a lot of reenactors and living historians. This book has a lot of very, very good information about a lot of the clothing and the gear were carried by a lot of those long hunters who were also, interestingly enough, hunting a lot of buffalo east of the Mississippi. These were market hunters. And if you read a lot of the accounts about market hunters, there was a great deal of interest in that and good money to be made. So all of these sketchbooks become an important part of your Fur Trade Era library. You'll often go back, as I often do, and consult those, take a look at those. They're very, very reasonably priced still, and I would want to make those in addition to my library if I haven't yet. So be sure and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Check out the description. There's some links to the museum website. You can also pick up these books on Amazon, and I'll post some of those links down there too. But I hope you've enjoyed another review of what's essential for your fur trade library.